everybody. This is the Hallmarkies podcast, and I'm so excited to be here. We're talking about the second part of this Thanksgiving Day massive marathon event thing that they did, Thanksgiving week, and at Hallmark. And we're talking about the final 4 films of that set. It's going to be really exciting. I'm Rachel, and I am joined today by the Hallmark and Jess of the Hallmark and Jess podcast. The Mark and Jess.
No, we're not.
Hi. Yeah, this is so exciting. Thank you so much.
Welcome to Hallmark and Jess. We're taking over. Sorry.
Thanks for having us.
It's a coup.
Yeah. So you guys, why don't you introduce yourself each individually, and then just tell us a little bit about your podcast.
I'm Mark. I'm the brains of the operation and the looks. And no, not really. I'm just I just edit it together, and Jess does all the work. But yeah, that's me.
Yeah. I show up once a week and talk about Hallmark movies. So,
So how did you guys meet? How are you friends?
Go ahead, Jess.
We met on Facebook. It was a hamster. We met on Facebook many, many years ago, back when it first started, when it was only on college campuses. And we went to the same college. And it was back when you could request friends. You didn't have to your profiles weren't private or anything yet. We just a very OG Facebook. We started that. And we've known each other online since then, and I think we've met in person once or twice.
I think it's once.
But we've just, I think it's, well, there's some discussion on that.
One was like a half
I don't know.
Yeah, or only in one of our heads. Mark had a dream about me the other night that I was robbing him. So
That's
maybe
true.
we met in his dream.
It felt real.
So funny.
Yeah. We have been online friends / texting friends for a really long time. And a couple years ago, we started watching Christmas movies together from different states. And we would just start them at the same time. And we would basically live tweet them, but in text message form to each other.
Uh-huh.
So this past April, he was like, you know what we should do? We should let other people listen to this because we're really funny. And he was right. And so we started a podcast, and people seem to like it.
Yeah, that's so.
But more importantly, we like it. So we keep doing it.
That's what's keeping us going.
So, what does your family and friends think of this? Do they think you're just wacko or what?
My mom listens. I don't know if your parents listen, Jess, but my mom.
They do not. They don't have the internet.
She might listen to this.
My family doesn't listen to my podcast either, so don't feel bad.
She's fine with it. She likes it. She likes listening to me. But every once in a while she'll be like, so I heard that story you said the other day.
Oh, I know. We have told some pretty interesting stories.
Yeah. And I'm like, that was pretty funny. So anyway.
That wasn't true at all. My grandmother thinks that we run a blog. So every week she's like, how's your blog going? And I'm like, it's going real good, Mimi.
Yeah. That's funny. My aunt is she's probably the most supportive of my whole family. My aunt, she's always commenting and listening and stuff. So yay, thank you, Kate, for listening. I appreciate it.
Yeah, shout out to Aunt Kate.
Yeah, woohoo. Yeah, that's right. And so this is a lot of fun. I found your podcast originally because we were doing a podcast about Alicia Chabert movies. And that was the original focus of the podcast was Lacey Chabert.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, a whole podcast just about Lacey Chabert. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And so I really had fun with it. And we became friends and there we go. And I got to be on your show. This was very fun.
Yeah, good one.
Yeah.
Christmas
Yes,
list,
we
right?
did have you on there. Yes.
That was
a good one.
Yeah.
It was. It was cute.
And I watching Lacey again during this thing was so nice. It was
didn't it do your heart some good?
Yeah, it wasn't the best movie, but still, it was just nice to have Lacey back.
Lacey and Alicia were both in this set. We just need Lindy Booth and have everybody.
I know. All of our queens.
Yeah.
We just ended Alicia Witt so badly that I wasn't really looking forward to it.
You started with her first movie. And nobody's great coming out of the bat.
Oh, Oh, we ended with
you
it?
finished
Okay,
Oh,
yeah.
we finished with her.
Yeah.
That was her first.
We
messed it
she
up.
started from the bottom, guys, and now she's here.
Yeah, now
so
she's here.
Well, that's
We're also
you
a
never
rap
hit it out of the. You don't. Most people, you don't hit it out of the mark your first time. So.
If you listen to our first episode, nailed it perfectly. So go back.
You have to start a Lacey Chabert movie, so this is very exciting. Pride, Prejudice, and Mistletoe. And I was curious, a couple things. Did you get to see the Christmas at Pemberley Manor from earlier this season?
I did.
I have not seen it, but I read some of the live tweets about it.
So I think both of the attempts to brand as Austen, Pride and Prejudice, whatever, have been complete failures as far as the Austen.
I was about to say totally miserable, right? Yeah, exactly.
Like that one, it made no sense. Like they just had the character names and had no resemblance to the actual characters in the book at all. And in this one, I think it's maybe even worse as far as related.
I honestly didn't get any of it. Like, and then they gender swapped the names, which I was like, okay, I'm okay with that. But like, where is the rest of the story? And I was like, who is supposed to be? Is Carl Wickham? Because I'm confused.
So Pemberley Manor was a Pride and Prejudice thing too?
Yeah,
that was Darcy's family home.
Yeah, okay, like, I've never read this, so I don't know.
It was Darcy. Yeah, I mean that
well,
one,
you didn't miss anything. So
they had like a little bit, but it was like Wickham was like the friendly mayor, and I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, I know. I was like, you made the Bennets brothers instead of sisters, and then I was like, which one is okay? I'm just confused now. If you're working that hard to find the thread, you could have just like not called it Pride, Prejudice, and Mistletoe, and it would have still been fine.
Yeah, they should have.
Was George in Pemberley Manor, was he supposed to be like a bad guy or something, like in the book? Or
no,
because I don't know anything about
Pemberley Manor. I mean, it makes my brain hurt to think about it. In Pemberley Manor, he was, I think, more supposed to be Bingley, but then there was another character that was named Bingley, so it was a mess.
So they just named him George.
And this
because I was on his side, he was great.
Yeah, he was fun.
End up with her.
But so just as far as the Austenizing, terrible. Both of them were complete failures. This one is actually technically based on another book called Pride, Prejudice, and Mistletoe.
Right.
Okay.
And Mistletoe.
Which I did not like. I didn't like the book.
Okay.
They do make quite a few changes, and I think they make it a tiny bit better.
Tiny bit better.
Yeah. But what were your overall thoughts on this movie? What about you, Jess?
I thought this movie was very cute. I was a fan of it. I am glad that my image of Lacey is not tarnished. I thought she did a fantastic job. There's one part at the end that I was just like, what? This was not a good choice. But other than that, I thought the movie was great. So
cool.
I was a fan. Yeah.
Good. And what about you, Mark?
I felt like it's pretty mediocre overall, honestly. If it hadn't had Lacey, I'd probably be a little more down on it. But it was just kind of, it's what it was, paint by the numbers kind of. And I don't know anything about Pride and Prejudice, so it's just like, I recognize those names kind of, but who knows if it's relating to anything.
It's not.
It's not at all.
Don't worry about it.
Not at all.
Put that outside your mind. Shouldn't even be a factor.
No. And so for me, I thought this movie had some positives. I thought that Brennan and Lacey were adorable and were really cute, and they had a lot of cute little moments, and they had pretty good chemistry. And I loved ex-boyfriend Carl. I thought he was very cute, and I just enjoyed him. And there were some things. I thought the dialogue was pretty good. Our friend Nina wrote this or adapted the book, and she's good at writing dialogue. I think she does a good job with that. But honestly, I thought the movie was pretty boring. If I'm gonna be honest, all of the party planning was just not doing it for me.
Yeah, I was like, what was that one where they're like planning the wedding the whole time, and I'm marrying Mr. Christmas or whatever. And it felt like a wedding planning movie, and I was just like, Yeah, I was just all right. Let's go.
There was really almost no conflict, and the conflict that they had
there wasn't
at the very end was very lame,
minimal.
And, yeah, it was just kind of like, oh, what food are we going to pick out for the party, and since it's not, I don't get to go to the party, it's not that interesting to me. Like, it's I'm kind of bored.
Well, I thought it was interesting that they had him plan the party with her, even though he was the caterer. And I was like, I don't think that they usually do that in like these high party circuits. I think there's usually definitely separate people that like fulfill all these roles.
You stick to food, stay in your lane, bro.
Yeah. I mean,
stay in your lane, right?
I mean, I guess because they were having it at his restaurant, right? Or no, they weren't.
No, they're having it at her family's house.
At her house,
yeah. He was literally just catering it. And then he presented one idea to her mom, and she goes, "That's a decent idea. You can plan it." I'm like, okay, that's a way to go. That's a Mrs. Darcy's mother. Go for it. Like,
and I was a little happy. Yeah, I was a little unclear of why Lacey was planning the party at all. She was just trying to help her mom.
Probably.
I think so. Because she came home from her job and she was worried that she was going to be bored, or like she didn't want to think about her job because she wasn't happy with it at the moment. So I think that her mom was like, "Here, I've got this thing you can help me with." And I think Lacey just dove right into it. And she's like, "Cool, something that's not about investment banking."
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Apron was so hilarious.
Yeah, it was
her apron was super cute. And I am glad that they utilized that later on in the movie when they did their classic baking scene. So
yeah, it was bake
that
it, you'll eat it
really well. Yeah, you'll eat it, like with the Yule log spelling, which was great. Yeah.
Would you wear that apron?
And I was glad every day, 100%.
Yeah.
Faux show.
I have
I was going to say, for my staged baking pictures, because my husband does all the baking. So,
yeah. Oh, good.
I literally made him take a picture of me vacuuming one night, and I posed with the vacuum, and I sent it to my family, and I was like, "Look, I did some chores." And my brother was like, "That vacuum is not on." And I was like, "How do you know?"
Oh my gosh, you scored in the marriage department, it seems.
He knocked it out of the park, guys.
Steve's a good man.
He won a prize with me. That's what
you're turning it on to you. The prize.
But I'm definitely not upset about it. So.
Yeah, that's good. So there's all this party planning, and there's all the shenanigans going back at her work. And I did love the scene where she magically appears on the boardroom.
Video conference.
Yeah.
She's like, just patch me into that.
Yeah, it was great.
Like an aggressive approach to take, and I was real proud of her.
I was too. It was really funny.
Yeah.
You're like, so you think you can
like
take
to see
away?
Lacey with a backbone.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
It was really funny. So what did you think?
Her partners were real awful to her.
Yeah, they were terrible. But of course, they're stockbrokers. They work in New York. They have to be terrible.
Exactly. They're just bad people. I don't know why she wanted to business with them in the first place. I think she was trying to transform them, and she was not successful. Yeah. So you gotta know when to hold them.
Yeah. Did you guys see that Twitter thread? It was so funny. The guy saying, as a professional businessman in New York, my greatest worry is my girlfriend running off
to a small town and someone teaching her the meaning of Christmas. I love that. I think someone said that to me.
Yeah,
and because my friends have started sending me memes about Hallmark now, and they're like, "Hey, did you buy this sweatshirt that says this is my Hallmark movie watching sweatshirt?" And I'm like, "No." But 7 of you have sent it to me, so I'm glad that everyone knows what I do now with my free time.
Yeah. So. Yeah, basically, if you live in New York City, you can only be a good person if you run a parade or some other kind of. Maybe if you work in a department store, you might be a person. Window decorator has a chance. You're a window decorator.
Yeah. Or if you're in the arts or something.
I was about to say, I honestly don't know how you can be a good person in New York. I mean, you gotta work really hard at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's rough. It's really hard. You know, the city, it just kills you. So
literally, yes. Like people have died there.
Yeah. So Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like it was probably, in a way, a good choice to not embrace the Pride and Prejudice part at all, even though it's in the title, because I just don't see Lacey Chabert fitting a Darcy character at all. So,
Darcy, no.
Right? Like, she's not the character. She's not the actress to play the prideful kind of, that's just not her. And so I think it was a good choice by Nina and the other screenwriters to kind of just move away from that.
Let her be her. Yeah.
Yeah. But
because, like, did you ever see the other Boleyn girl?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So did you feel like, I know, I have a point, I promise you.
Okay, good.
So did you feel like in that movie, like, so Natalie Portman is a natural brunette and Scarlett Johansson is a natural blonde. And I felt it was lazy screen casting to cast Natalie Portman as Anne Boleyn just because she's a brunette, as Scarlett Johansson as the sister just because she's blonde. Because normally their personalities are totally switched. Like, I think that Scarlett should have been Anne, and I think that Natalie should have been the sister. And I was still young when that came out. I was, I think, in college. And so I was just like, that's lazy. And I didn't, like, put any thought into it. And then later in life, I was like, oh, maybe they wanted to step outside their comfort zones, and that was kind of what that was about. But it's like, if you try and cast Lacey as a mean or like super aggressive type, it's just, you're not going to get what you wanted out of that. It doesn't play. So
I completely agree with you about the other Boleyn girl and about Lacey.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Like, at best,
have no idea what's going on.
At best, she can play Caddy. Obviously, we know that from Mean Girls.
Yeah, she can. Yes, I mean
that's different than prideful.
And Black Christmas, she was very catty in that too.
Oh, was she? I haven't seen
She
that.
was just vapid.
Don't ever watch it.
Okay.
Please don't. We would never wish that upon anyone.
So anyway, I did like there were little cute moments. Like, I thought, as ridiculous as it was, when she's refusing to get help with the Christmas trees, and then it's like Christmas domino.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, yeah, you deserve that, Miss Darcy.
Jess, were you as upset as I was that she couldn't deadlift that tree?
Okay, Steve goes, can't she just pick that thing up on her shoulder? And I was like, yes, she can.
Have you seen
no evidence of it?
Yeah. Have you seen The Tree That Saved Christmas, Rachel?
I have not. I need to.
You need to watch that one. It's ridiculous.
It is amazing.
And
she made it very high up on my rankings of our favorite Lacey movies of all time. It made it all the way to number 4 because I put it
because
so
you forced
high.
it up there.
I completely skewed everything. That movie is like one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah,
that's
she
hilarious.
Just grabs a tree, throws it over her shoulder, goes down like
carries it down
10
an
flights of
elevator,
stairs or elevator.
Walks it down the street to a cab.
I mean, I guess that was her sort of version of pride. Is that she
she
want
did
any help?
Yeah, that's
with
true.
The trees. I was like, you deserved every one of those dominoes for being so ridiculous. And
it was pretty funny.
Also, because I was talking to my mom about it too, and I was like, I really don't see the Pride and Prejudice in here at all. And she was like, well, she didn't want any help, but she also didn't want people to judge her, I guess, or like preconceive that she was lazy because she was working for her father. Like she wanted people to judge her on her own merits. And I was like, that is reaching kind of deep, but I appreciate it, Mom. And I will write that down. So.
Yeah, that was a thing. That's true that you often see in movies where the people are afraid that they'll be judged because they're rich or whatever. And I honestly, like, they'll be, that I honestly don't really think that's a thing, especially because most people that are rich hang around with other people that are rich. And so the judgment is probably not as crippling as people in movies make it seem. But I mean, I can kind of understand that I worked for my dad for many years, he was this president of the company. I worked for the company, so it wasn't technically working for my dad, but anyway, worked with my dad for many years, and it has its pluses and its minuses. And definitely when I was really young, I had this idea of like, oh, I'm not going to do that. I'm not gonna work for Grabber. It's our family company. That's terrible. That's no good. But I realized once I finished school that you kind of have to work where you get a job, like especially in this economy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Build up your skills.
Because everybody just is kind of dependent on their connections of who they know and who can help them get a job. And unless you're super lucky and, you are able to apply, now hiring kind of a thing, or you work for the government, then I think you end up working through connections that
Yeah.
For most of us. So, but anyway.
And she did work for her dad for a while, and she said she just always felt like no one thought that she was any good at her job. And so she struck out on her own, which is admirable. And look what happened to her.
Right. She ended up in New York.
I know. I don't know that this is the best course of action that she's ever embarked upon. So she comes back to the fold, listeners. Don't you worry.
So who do we think is the more dapper dresser? Carl or Luke? Who do you like?
Carl. 100%.
Yes, right?
100%. New York has been kind to him in the fashion department. Did you look at all the patterns in his scarf and his vest the first time we see him? He's got such a lot going on. And I was like
good job.
There's like a waistcoat in there.
Yeah. I know. I was like, good job, wardrobe department. They crushed it.
Yeah. I was a fan.
Very
I was
handsome.
a fan.
And so I was a fan of that. And then it was kind of funny because I thought Carl looked quite a bit like her brother, which was sort of weird.
Oh no.
I was like, that's strange.
Well, okay. I was about to say there is a cousin thing going on, but that's in a later movie that we're going to discuss. So I'll get there. I did enjoy the laugh lines on Luke. Like the laugh lines were carved so deep in him that you could see them even when he wasn't smiling. And it just made him always look kind of happy. So I did like that. He just looked like he was enjoying life. So.
Yeah, he has a very juicy smile. There's no doubt about it. Brendan Penny. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And
it's crazy. Yeah.
I loved the scene when they were in the restaurant kitchen and he's like making his hazel chestnut whatever pies.
Yes,
and
chocolate. Yeah.
And then he starts like jamming out to Jingle Bell Rock or something like
Christmas
that.
song.
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
Always dancing to Christmas songs.
Yeah.
It was super cute, and I love that they had that baking scene between the two of them. I thought that was adorable. I love it when they bring baking into Lacey movie. I think at this point Hallmark realizes that if they have a Lacey movie without baking, people will revolt.
Yeah.
So
riding in the street.
They have to be minding the live tweets because when she bakes, good things happen.
Yeah, I agree.
That's all I have to say about that.
So it was those were some of the highlights, and the ending was a little bit of a groaner with him like overhearing the conversation between Carl and Lucy and him like storming off. I'm like, I'm so tired of that trope. Let's move on.
It happens so much. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, like could you not just stand there for 17 seconds longer? Like, did you have to high foot like it out of there? Like, just let the girl finish speaking. Like, come on, if you're gonna eavesdrop totally. Okay.
Like, I just don't like conflict when literally a 2-sentence conversation can resolve it. It's just
fix
like
it. Exactly.
Yeah. And then they're like always like immediately making huge life-changing decisions after saying it. They're like, I will take that job in 3 states over. Like, really?
Yeah, I have completely restructured my father's company, but now it makes more sense. And also, I'm going to be Carl's boss. Which is fantastic.
That was quite the changes. She's like, Dad, I'll work for you, but you have to do this, and you have to do this, and you have to do
this, and this. It was great. And he just goes, you know what? That's a great idea, honey. Where do I sign? And I was like, thank you, Dad.
I feel like her dad has been the villain in a lot of the mystery movies. And so I was always a little bit suspect of him. But he was fine. It was just me, like, carrying over from some. I know I've seen him as a villain. Oh no, it's not the mystery movies. He had a terrible part in The Good Witch. where he
played
Abigail's dad, and he was trying to con her, emotionally manipulate her and con her out of all of this money and open a bank account in her name. He was a bad dad. So that's what I'm carrying over.
Oh, bad dad.
Because I love The Good Witch.
That's tough.
Yeah.
That's
hard to
tough.
forget that stuff.
Anyway, so
it is, because when you see an actor that has played such a pivotal part to you previously, you're just like, can I see you as someone else? And it's hard.
So honestly, this movie just was kind of boring. I just couldn't really get into the party planning. It was just not enough for me, and so I gave it 2.9 crowns out of 5.
Okay.
And I have it at
okay.
53
That's respectable.
in my ranking. 53 out of 75.
So y'all are ranking like all of your movies this year?
That I'm just doing it.
Okay.
So out of 5, how many crowns would you give it, Jess?
Okay. I liked it more than both of you. And I think it's probably just because it was a Lacey movie, and I really did feel like she moved it along. It was pleasant to watch, and I was missing Lacey in my life. And so I'm going to give it, I say, like 3.5 out of 5.
Good.
Nice.
What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I like the chemistry between them.
Yeah.
And sorry, Mark, I'm still talking.
No, yeah, I'm used to.
I thought they had some really cute little scenes. Now, the only thing I have to say about the end real quick here is they planned this entire charity party, and like the proceeds were going to go to the youth center. Like that's why they planned this whole party. And at the end, they made the kids serve dinner at the charity ball. And they were like, "Oh, you can't forget about that," because it was horrifying.
Well, because
but they were like, "This is how the kids want to show their gratitude," and I was like, "By serving rich people?" Like it was a little icky for me.
Wasn't there some kind of storm Wasn't there some kind of storm or something that kept the servers?
There was a storm, and all the other servers were booked, and so the kids just did it. I was like, and like they were talking about how the kids were going to serve dinner as they were having makeup artists get them ready for the party, and it was just like a real dichotomy for the
That's
but
very
other
true.
than that, still 3.5 out of 5, Lacey.
Great. Well, Mark, what about you?
All right. Oh, thank you. God, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It was very middle of the road for me. And so I would normally put it 2.5, but since it's Lacey, bumps it up another half. Got to go 3.
Great. Okay.
All right.
A little better. She makes
So
good.
we're right in line with each other, I feel. So nothing too wacky.
All right. So next we're going to talk about Christmas Everlasting. This is the Hallmark Hall of Fame for the holidays. And this is based on the book by Marie Bostwick called The Second Sister. I did get a chance to read the book, and I do have one major complaint about the adaptation. But basically, this story is about this woman named Lucy who is working in the city. So, that's not terrible. A good choice. Yeah. But she has a sister who has kind of special needs because of an accident that she had when she was 20. And she gets a call and finds out that her sister has passed away. She has to go back to Wisconsin to this town. And she finds out that her sister has put in her will that she has to live in the house in order to maintain ownership of the house for 4 weeks. And meanwhile, she meets her sister's attorney, who was her old flame, named Peter, and sparks fly. And they find a revelation about her sister Alice's past, that she had a daughter named Maeve, and then there's also the quilting group from
oh, you mean the Coven of Witches? The Coven of Witches, because I have things to say about them.
Yeah, I do too.
But please continue.
Okay, so that's basically the plot. About this movie is in the book.
Oh my god.
In the book, she is working on a political campaign. Like, there's this politician that she really believed in, and she got him to city council, and she got him to be governor, and then he's been elected president, right? And so that's such a more, you could totally understand why somebody would be like, that's something that's like passionate and something, as opposed to just become some corporate stooge, first of all. So that's more interesting to me. Secondly, if you have the opportunity to have a president in your movie and you have Dennis Haysbert in your cast, how can you not have him play the president? I mean,
that's true.
Like, he's one of the most iconic presidents in TV history from 24, playing President Palmer. I was just like, what? Like,
right. It's a strange choice you've made, Hallmark.
Yes. And I'm sure they didn't want to get into politics and stuff, but I was like, oh, poor decision.
But missed opportunity.
Anyway.
Even so, I thought this movie was fantastic.
It's so good. This cast was so good.
I loved it so much. I was so pleased that they gave the Hallmark Hall of Fame movie to one of the minority casts this year. I thought it was such a great step forward for Hallmark in general and like the world at large. I was just really into it, and I was not disappointed. It was so good. Everyone should watch it.
I liked it. There were things, I was a little more mixed on it than you guys, for sure. But I did, in the end, like it. I was on the Lifetime Uncorked podcast for this week, for this movie, and they have do you put a cork in it or do you pour it out? And I ended up pouring it up, and because I did, in the end, I thought there were more positives than negatives in it. And I did enjoy it.
Right.
So
yeah.
And as far as the diversity goes, they have done, in fairness, they have done Hallmark Hall of Fames in the past that have had African-American casts. There's movies like, I think it's called Firelight with Cuba Gooding Jr. There was an old classic called The Piano Lesson, which is based on I think a Tennessee Williams play. I could be wrong on that. But anyway, there are some Hall of Fames. But as far as the Hallmark Channel, and as far as it being a romantic story, they've never really done it, and so this is very exciting. And I think the cast was great in this film, and I really think that Tatiana Ali was up for the challenge of the more meteor segments.
She
really got me.
She was awesome. Like, she played like every emotion, like, and she just made you feel it. Like, I felt it 100%.
It was a real bummer right away. Just like, man, coming out the gate with just sad stuff.
Yeah, like all up in your feels. Like,
yeah. So it was really funny. So when I first saw the casting, I was like, I know who that Peter is. I know who that guy is. Oh my gosh. And I realized that he was a very memorable supporting character on The Cosby Show. Dondre Whitfield played this character named Robert, who was a boyfriend of Vanessa's on The Cosby Show. And there's a really memorable scene of Cliff sitting there with 2 apples. And he's like, were you this close to my daughter? Were you this close? Moving up closer and closer and closer. Until finally he's like, they're touching. He's like, yes. And then he puts them on top, the apples. And then it gets like, no.
Oh man,
so I was so excited. I was like, yay, Robert still acting. That's so fun.
Yeah, without people posting that, I would have never known who that was.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that.
I was very excited. So way to go. And I thought they had pretty good chemistry. Do you like their chemistry?
I did. When I first saw him, I was like, he doesn't have like the laugh lines or like the classic like Hallmark leading man looks that I'm used to. But the more that I watched him, the more that I liked him, and I liked him with her. So I thought that they together did a great job. Yeah. So
he was a very good. Sorry, go ahead.
No. My favorite part of the movie was like probably the little scenes in like the ice house and stuff like that. Like,
oh my god,
that was a nice ice fishing house.
That place was better decorated than my apartment. Like, it had more amenities. Like, just because there's a hole in the ground where fish come out of sometimes, I would take it. Like, there were Christmas trees and Christmas lights and a stove and a couch. And, like, you could sit and have a conversation comfortably. And I was like, man, this place is amazing. It's like a tiny home on a lake that's covered in ice. So
it's very, very, very cozy.
I enjoyed it. If you like love Christmas so much that you decorate your ice fishing hut, like what is your life like? I would like to know. Like
it's
maybe we could be friends. I know.
My question about the ice huts is when it melts, are they just like on like stilts or something? Like how does it work?
I think they pull them off probably.
Oh, they can move them off?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, well, they have to. I don't know. I don't know why I'm speaking about ice fishing like I have any sort of authority. I lived in Texas for most of my life, so
I think I don't know. I'm just guessing here, but I think it's on kind of like just like planks or something, and you can just pull it off of there. I don't know. Write in. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, let us know in the comments if you
Educate
know.
us.
Oh, please. Yes, exactly. Please tell us everything you know about ice fishing. Because we clearly need some pointers.
So the main dramatic thrust of the movie is that her sister got in this accident because she was coming to get Lucy on a wintry night, and so because she had caused this accident in her mind, caused this accident upon her sister, and her sister was like super accomplished, great at the violin, great at all this stuff, and so she felt like she had ruined her sister's life, and every time she would see Peter, she would feel like she would remember and she would feel bad, so that's why she had to leave. And I especially that scene when she first she acknowledges that to Peter under the bridge. I thought that was a very effective scene. I was definitely tearing up for sure.
I love that. Well, so Peter, to me, in that scene, this is a great scene, by the way, everyone should watch it. Yeah. In that scene, he acted like a little surprised that she felt so guilty. And I'm like, Peter, like, she was at your house when her sister got in an accident. Like, why are you so surprised that she pulled away from you? Like, I couldn't understand how he could not see it. But you could tell that Peter was so much more well-adjusted, like, emotionally than Lucy. And he showed it. And, like, he was just, like, a prime candidate, like, to show everyone else in the Hallmark universe, like, how therapy can be beneficial for you. Because he's clearly had some. So, like, he's talking about forgiveness, forgiving yourself, like, and, you know, maybe you should accept what you have and not yearn for things that people think you should have. And I was just like, man.
But it's also not his sister. Like, it's not going to be the same for him versus her. Right. Because even if she hadn't had anything to do with it at all, she still might have found some way to internalize it as her fault. And because that's just
and associate that entire town with her sister.
Yeah,
so
that's
why would you want to come back to the scene of this tragedy? You know?
Yeah, because people absorb things different, and you know, it's not like she had been a horrible person to her sister. She had the ticket ready. She had her to New York many times. She just couldn't. You know, they were ready to go to the Nutcracker. Talk to her a lot. So she wasn't a horrible sister, and that does bring me some of my negatives about the movie. I thought that quilting group was the worst thing to ever exist. I hated it so much, especially the one with the black hair. I was just like, what?
Oh, Rinda, the one who was like real upset about everything.
Like, she was so rude and so cold, and like, she does not have to have you in her life at all. Like, you are a friend of her sister's. Fine. And it did feel a little bit weird that there was a little bit of sort of tokenism, a little bit like, oh, friends of Alice, we're gonna make her our, you know, like, she's our black friend, and it was a little weird. But even then, even putting that aside, I just thought, like, who are you to judge how somebody else grieves? Like, you're just the worst.
And they're so mad at her. They're like, you never talked to her, and she talked to her all the time. I didn't understand why they were so mad at her.
Even if she didn't talk to her, it's really not appropriate to say those kind of things when you're
kind of superimpose yourself on the family. Like, that's true.
Because
what I do like about the friends of Alice, though, like I mentioned before, is that when they first met her at the actual funeral, they presented themselves. They were standing in a straight line. They're all wearing black, and they were like, "We're the friends of Alice." And I was like, "You're her witch's coven?"
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Are you saying that Alice was your patron saint of like Wiccan? So I just wanted to get this straight here. And like they have an acronym, it's like FOA, and I was like, well, are they like a registered like sect?
Yeah. Well, and they change it to FOL later in the movie, and it's like, you guys are.
I did not care.
No, I was mad, and I'm
that
like,
was so weird.
You guys are adults. You don't need a club name. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Well, and also, I was like, the fact that they named themselves Friends of Alice and people knew them as that, in my mind, made Alice seem a lot less mentally stable than it seems like she was. It sounds like they were like taking her on as their charitable cause.
Yeah.
And Alice was doing fine. Like, she volunteered in an animal shelter. Like, she changed the bylaws of the town. Like, she made all these quilts. She searched for her daughter. Like, it wasn't like she had mental problems. She just was a little slower, like physically. And to have
if you're
a
doing
group that's called Friends of Alice, it makes it sound like she is special needs.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And if you're doing that to honor her, like, we're Friends of Alice, we love Alice, she's awesome. And then another person comes in, she's like, we'll change the name immediately. Forget you, Alice. We're done.
Exactly.
You can still be Friends of Alice. Just bring in Lucy.
Well, you should all still be Friends of Alice because Alice is still present among you. Like, she lives on in your hearts. Like, come on, people. Question also about the timeline, because we haven't talked about Maeve at all yet. But so if 20 years ago, when Alice had her car accident, are we assuming that she was pregnant or that she'd already put Maeve up for adoption?
She'd already put Maeve up for adoption when she was 20. It wasn't 20 years ago. It was when she was 20.
Okay, because I was very confused about that. They never really nailed that timeline down because Maeve herself looked like she was about 17 at most.
Yeah, I was gonna say like 14, I'd say.
It's somewhere in there,
Yeah, so she was gonna tell her, and then there was the accident, everything like that.
That night.
And she places the baby up for adoption. And but she still sounds like some kind of contact, at least through an attorney or something. Like Peter knew about it.
Well, it sounds like maybe she was looking for Maeve, like, because she'd made her all these quilts, and like she was going through Peter, and I don't know if they had finally found her or what, but she'd never met her.
He might have been the lawyer that handled the adoption.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah,
because I'm
the
adopted.
The first time that she paid him $100 and a goldfish.
Yeah, sure.
For that, for handling the adoption.
Everything was very confusing.
Peter was 15 at that point.
Yeah, you're right. He wouldn't be the lawyer then. Yeah, but he done some work for her. But he'd obviously done her will and stuff like that. But but it was really weird how they had a different actress playing her as whatever 17, whatever that was, because she looked the same age as Tatiana Lee to me. Like, she did not look like a teenager.
Yeah,
and I thought that was, I was like, who is this? What? Like, they could have, I think, made Tatiana look young, because she has a young face, I feel like.
Yeah.
Face.
But
I
thought she looked fantastic in this movie.
Oh, she was beautiful, for sure.
Was on point. That New York style came back with her to Wisconsin. I appreciated that. But yeah, her makeup was always good. Her hair always looked great. She looked on point. So
I was also completely not interested in the Save the McHenrys, whatever that store was. I did not care about that plot line at all.
And they're always building condos. Would you stop with the condos?
They literally are.
Condos
always
are not that bad.
Condos are the worst word. It's like the most dirty word in all of Hallmark.
I know. It's like a 4-letter word to Hallmark. What I did appreciate is the fact that she got to use her legal expertise to help. So I did appreciate that, and it gave her a reason at the end to come back home and like take up, like put her shingle out with Peter. Like, so that was good. We got to see like an example of how her legal mind saved the town. But like those flyers that they put up were very reminiscent of saving the clock tower from Back to the Future. That is immediately what it put me in mind of. It literally looked like they were voting to save that clock tower. Like they were donating money for it. So
that's true.
But I have a problem with the whole setup for the will part in the first place, where she's like, I have to stay in this house to get this house, or else it's going to go to the animal shelter. I'm like, that sounds great. Let's donate it. I'm going to sell this instead. She doesn't want to like keep it. Yeah, just give it to the animal shelter.
Why on earth did she stay in the house for 4 weeks if she was planning on selling it anyway?
Yeah.
Get yourself back to New York and start your promotion, girl.
Yeah, I mean, I guess she would have lost when she starts the movie. She's a selfish city person, remember? And so when she finds out, she's going to lose all of that income that she would have gotten from selling the house.
Yeah.
So wait the 4 weeks and then she could get all that income.
It just seemed like a strange.
I think so, yeah.
Oh, I did not get that from her, but you're right.
But there was also a little bit of guilt from Uncle Barney saying, "Oh, it's been in the family so long, let it go, whatever." So
yeah, well, but it was a stretch. It was a stretch for her to say, "Yeah, I'll definitely risk my job promotion and stay here 4 weeks and then sell it anyway."
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I did love
but
that
she clearly has a change of heart. So
well, and Peter is like the ultimate Hallmark good lawyer, because lawyers usually are terrible. Yes. And there was the other real estate guy.
Real estate guy.
Oh my gosh, he was so funny.
Awful.
It was so. He like had his feet like on the desk,
with
like
his 3 dogs. I loved it.
It was so funny. I was like, this guy is like Satan himself.
A caricature. Yes. It's like he was trying to connect with her and be like, look, I'm a person. I have 3 dogs. They're in my Christmas card. And then he's like, I can get you $500,000 for that. We're going to knock it down. Don't you worry, pretty lady. And I was like, what is wrong with you? I think he had like a dual personality.
He was hilarious. But the thing that's so funny about these Hallmark movies is it's like, this is a small town in Wisconsin. You're telling me you can't find any other land anywhere to build your condos?
Right. Well, you have to build them right here. Exactly. Ridiculous. Well, it's so small a town that it makes you wonder how Peter could take her on as a partner. Like, do they really need 2 of them? Like, how many clock towers do they need to save?
I mean, I'm not sure that he even is like gainfully employed.
Well, clearly he's doing ice skating lessons like every Wednesday at 12:30, and he ice fishes like twice a day.
So I don't know what's going to happen there.
I appreciate about this movie? I really appreciated, though, that her assistant in New York was white and his assistant in his law firm was white, because it totally flipped the script on the quirky work best friends. And I just appreciated that. Like, I like the way that they handled, like, the cast and the minorities. It was really well done. So
I was a little bit irritated by the fact that Patti LaBelle is put on the poster of this movie. Like, she is going to be a major star, and her job was literally to open the door and say, "Hey, welcome to the party." Like, that's it.
Welcome to the cookie party.
Some cookies. Yeah. I was expecting way more of her. Yes. And the thing is, I did make a note of this. I enjoyed the music in this movie. They clearly spent some money on the classics. Like, there's Bing Crosby, there's Nat King Cole. Why did they not have Patti LaBelle sing? I just can't fathom it. And I did not appreciate that she wasn't trying to hawk any of her pies. I was expecting her to bring one right out and be like, eat this Patti LaBelle pie. I was ready for it.
Does she have pies?
She has a line of pies.
Oh, man.
Like, look it up. Patti LaBelle sells the crap house and pies. So,
well, doesn't she?
Don't quote me on that. It is some famous singer that has
show.
pies.
She has a cooking show too?
Has a line of pies.
Man, she's on fire.
Yeah, I think she has like a diabetic friendly cooking show, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's why she wasn't in there very much. She's got a ton of stuff to do. She's got an empire to run, guys. She can't be in a movie all the time.
But this is a trend in a lot of TV movies where they will advertise some gimmick.
Yeah.
Like in the Lifetime, I think it was called The Christmas Inn with Tia Mowry. They advertised it as like sister reunion, like so exciting, even though it's her, it's not Tamara. But they advertised, Jack Kay's going to be in this, and Tim Reed as her parents. Like this is just, it's going to be so exciting. And they were literally in the movie for like I don't know, maybe 5 minutes, of the whole movie, with them just like vacationing and saying, "Hi, daughter, how you doing?" You know, I was like, it was very annoying.
Yeah.
But anyway, but my main thing was I just thought that the whole McHenry's thing was boring, and I thought that the quilters were the worst. I hated them. But other than that, I enjoyed it. I thought it was moving, and I thought it had a nice heart to it.
So moving. I cried multiple times, and I loved it when Maeve showed up at the end, and they had this really heartwarming connection where Lucy got to show her all of the quilts that her mother had quilted for her over the years, and it was just like, and got me right in the feels, Hallmark. Like,
the Maeve stuff,
you knew what you were doing.
The Maeve stuff I really appreciated like they presented it in a way like, as an adopted person, we don't all handle it the same. Some of us are like mad, and some of us are, don't care about anything like that. But like me, like I would just kind of like to know something. So when she came in and she was like all happy to meet everybody, I feel like that's how I would be if I went and met, my birth family and stuff. I like that, they're presenting that side instead of just being like the, she's an angsty teen or something that, was treated wrong. So I don't know. She's a well-adjusted kid who just is interested in her family and fits right in. It was real nice.
You know what I also really appreciated is that when she finally does meet Lucy, Lucy goes, "Oh, so your parents kept your name." And I'm like, thank you. They are her parents. Like, I know that Alice was her birth mom, but like, these are the people that raised you. And she's respectful of that. So I really enjoyed that.
Crowns, would you give this one, Jess?
5.
Wow.
5 out of 5.
Yep.
Loved it. I have to say that I'm a recent Hallmark convert. Like, me and Mark started last year with like the live tweeting each other through our phones and everything. And I've watched them before, but never with the intensity that I have the past 2 years. So I haven't seen a lot of Hallmark Hall of Fame movies, but this one compared to the ones I'm used to watching was so good, and it got me so good. And it just was like everything I wanted. It's just a great movie. Like, it wasn't even Hallmark to me. It was just a good movie.
Good, great. What about you, Mark?
I loved it.
Hold on, we got to make sure Jess is done. Okay.
Oh, I'm finished. Thank you, Mark.
5. I'm going 5 for sure. I loved it. I thought it was great.
This is so exciting.
I thought all the cast, everyone was good. I liked the Coven of Witches more than y'all did, but still, I
like them. I like them. I like that they were a coven of witches. I'm just glad they were there.
That little girl with that mouse toboggan hat thing, I was like, oh, that is the cutest kid I've ever seen in my life. What is that hat? Will that hat make me that adorable? I don't know. I have to find one and try it.
You don't even know. You're going to have to try it. You're going to have to Amazon Prime that.
Yeah. But yeah, it was great. Everybody was great.
Good job. All right. Well, I give it 3.25 crowns. Just because I didn't like the McHenry stuff, and I thought that was kind of boring, and I did not like the quilting girls. I thought they were the worst. So that's where I
enjoyed the revolution of their relationship with Lucy from the beginning to the end. I did really like the pregnant one. I thought she was a great actress. I appreciated her. So
cool. Ranking for Christmas Everlasting is number 36. I have it just after All of My Heart Wedding and before The Garage Sale Mystery.
Oh, I loved All of My Heart Wedding.
It was cute. It was cute. So the next one is Christmas on Honeysuckle Lane. This is a movie about a woman named Emma who comes back to her family home to celebrate Christmas with her siblings after her parents have died. And she's been away. I don't know if it's New York, but it's the city. So she needs reformation, like all these. So the plan is to sell this big house on that her parents have always lived in. And so it's her and her siblings that are having this Christmas. And she finds this batch of letters from this mysterious man named RJ to her mother. It's not her father. And so she tries to research and find out who this RJ is. And along the way, she gets help from this antique appraiser, I guess, dealer. Named Morgan, and they end up falling in love, and it's very exciting. And we find out that that RJ had ended up marrying one of her friends, basically, and one of her mom's friends. Is very sweet. And this is really interesting because both Colin Ferguson and Alicia Witt are both known for their comedies and their comedic talents more than their dramatic talents. And so I thought this was a really odd pick for them.
Yeah.
But I did think they were really cute. They were definitely the best thing about the movie, in my opinion. I thought they had really nice chemistry and they were really
you're so incorrect. It's amazing how wrong you are.
I thought they were fine too.
Yeah, I liked them together.
This movie.
Their
chemistry was the worst thing about it. I could not stand it.
I don't agree with that.
I'm not a huge fan.
I will be the devil's advocate in this situation.
Okay, good. Great. I love it. I guess for me, I thought that there were some interesting things about the movie. I thought that the story with the RJ and the letters didn't go exactly the way that I expected it to. It was pretty boring, but it was a little interesting.
It was kind of unnecessary. I was about
to say I felt it was 100% unnecessary. I get that it was like to showcase that like their perfect fairy tale marriage, the mom and dad wasn't as like, cookie cutter as everyone had always assumed. But I feel like they probably could have done that in a different way. I didn't feel like this whole like mystery into the letters had anything to do with the rest of the movie at all.
It wasn't my favorite, but I did like the moment when they actually meet the RJ's wife. I thought that was sweet.
Well, I thought it was nice that they actually already knew her and she didn't think it was like a scandal at all. And she's like, of course I'll explain it to you, honey. I'm so glad you asked. And like here
I like that.
Emma was thinking it was like this big thing. And Mrs. Jacobs was like, oh, hon, let's have some tea. Let me just spill it for you. Don't even worry about it. So I like that.
Yeah.
What I did not like about that was that Morgan was involved in every single aspect of her family Christmas, the last family Christmas they're ever going to have at this house, and he inserted himself into every part of it. He decorated the tree. He met the kids. He went to the attic. He pulled out the decorations. He found the letters. And I'm like, oh my God, what is wrong with you? Like, is he stalking them?
That's been happening a lot lately in this movie.
I mean, I can see that. That's a valid point. He is kind of overeager. But I don't know. I thought that there were cute scenes, like when they do the snowman building contest.
Oh, there were cute.
Like when they're like getting hot cocoa. And I thought I really did think they had nice chemistry. I thought they brought what funny was possible out because they are comedic actors. And, but for me, I thought that there were some really weird things about this movie. Like, I love Laura Layton, and I was very excited to see her back in Hallmark because she hasn't done a movie for a long time for Hallmark. But the whole drama with her and her daughter was so weird. Like, who on earth is like, you're going to medical school? What's wrong with you?
I'm so disappointed in you.
Hashtag bad choices. Like, what?
Whoever which parent in the history of the world has ever come down on their daughter for switching their major from fine arts to pre-med?
You follow your artistic dream. I don't care if you never make money.
How can you be disappointed in that? Like, I am so confused.
It was so weird. that whole sequence with the rain being stuck and the whole thing, I thought was pretty funny. And that's what I'm saying. I thought she brought the comedy that was there into something that probably another actress, like if Lacey Chabert had been in this part, because she's not a comedic actress, like it wouldn't have been as funny.
Yeah.
No. But I will say, I did appreciate what Alicia brought to the role, because she also did make it, like, when she was upset, I was upset. Like, I just really believed her. I got how upset she was about her parents' death. I understood how, like, bereft she felt about the fight she had with her mother. Like, she poured a lot of herself into it. I just was upset that I didn't like this movie. Like, I liked her, and I didn't like almost anything else about it.
Interesting.
So.
Yeah. So I also thought that her brother Daniel was very weird. Like,
I love Daniel.
I thought
you love Daniel.
How dare you?
Daniel.
I'm a Daniel defender.
Like, all of his responses seemed like off to me. I'm like, are you in this movie, or are you like in another movie?
Yeah. I wrote down that he was definitely the baby, and they both definitely treated him as such. They babied the crap out of him. And you find out that he is the youngest and that they were doing all of this for him, which in the end, when they finally had that scene with just the siblings, and they were sitting underneath the tree, and he was like, I really just wanted this to be perfect for mom and dad. And they're like, oh, Daniel, you don't have to hold this family together. And I liked that. But up until that point, I was like, what is the deal, Daniel? Like, get over yourself, okay?
Yeah.
Well, they just leave him out of the loop of everything. He can't help it. He's doing the best he can with limited information.
He can't handle it because he's the baby.
They got to give him a chance. They got to give him a chance to be a strong man.
No,
I don't know. He just always seemed kind of out of it. Yeah, I don't know. It was weird, but yeah.
Steve thought that he was a terrible actor. He was like, "Oh no, don't like Daniel at all. He's bad."
And
I was like, "Okay, see your
Danny's
point."
my boy.
So.
Yeah.
Danny, if you're out there,
oh my god.
He did screw up that one time where he said, like, well, you look relaxed. I was like, oh, Daniel, no. No, that's
don't say that.
Bad idea.
Don't ever say that to a woman. Yeah.
So how many crowns did you give this one, Mark?
I'm going to go 2.75.
All right.
Better than average, but not that much better.
I'd give it 3 crowns. I have it at number 50 in my ranking. So just a tiny bit ahead of Pride, Prejudice, and Mistletoe, which I had a 53. So, yeah. So, how many crowns do you give it, Jess?
I'd give it a week 2. Week 2 out of 5.
Good.
Week 2. I mean, so what I'm glad about is that I watched Pride, Prejudice, and Mistletoe. Thought it was great. Really enjoyed it. Wasn't as didn't give as much love as I ended up on this podcast, because then the next day I watched this movie and I was like, ooh, that Lacey one way better. And then I watched Christmas Everlasting and I was like, well, I've just stopped. Amazing. I don't need to watch any more Hallmark movies ever again. I have reached the pinnacle of Hallmark and I should quit while I'm ahead. So I'm really I think that because I watched them all together in the order that I did affected the ranking that I gave.
It's definitely a flawed movie. So it's definitely a flawed movie. So I understand. So, all right. Well, let's talk about A Shoe Addict's Christmas. I was actually very excited for this movie because I have read the Shoe Addict's books and I found them delightful. This is probably the best of all of the books. And it was funny. I love Christmas Carol and It's a Wonderful Life. And this was kind of like a merging of the two in a way, I felt like. And so I felt like it had a ton of potential. And then when I heard that Jean Smart was going to be the guardian angel, I was like, this is going to be amazing because she's an incredible actress. She can do it all. She can do comedy. She's done Designing Women. She's done so many great comedies. She's done dramas. She was so great on 24. And she's just incredible. So I knew she would be amazing. And then I love Luke McFarlane. He is one of my favorite Hallmark hunks. He's great. He was in a great one last year called The Birthday Wish, which was really one of the best written that I think I've ever seen. It was really good. And that one had Jesse Schramm in it. It was really, really quite good. And he always is just great. He was in a really good one last year called Maggie's Christmas Miracle. That was really good. He's just super charming, super great. And of course, Candace Cameron Bure, she's the queen of Hallmark. This was just very exciting. And so I was pumped for it. And I have to say, for me, it did not disappoint. I thought this movie was great. I thought it was charming. I thought it was funny. I thought it had a nice heart to it. I just really enjoyed it. I liked the message. I thought they nailed it. I just really enjoyed it. So I don't know. What about you, Jess?
I loved it. So personally, I do not care for Candace Cameron Bure as a person. So that has kept me away from her Hallmark movies. I don't know how. Like, as I said, I was a recent Hallmark convert, but how could I have missed all of the ones that she's been in? But I have. And I think it's because I was scared to like delve into her because I was afraid that my personal feelings would mar like the experience.
Yeah.
But I watched this movie and she is delightful. This movie was fantastic. I thought she looked great. I thought she acted great. I thought she had wonderful chemistry. I loved everything about it. I literally watched it about an hour before we started this podcast and because I couldn't face anymore yesterday. I was like, I watched Honeysuckle and then I watched Christmas Everlasting and I was on the fence about this when I was like, oh no, what if it's bad? I can't end my night on a bad note. So I waited until today and it made my night better. I was just I just loved it. And I didn't read the books, didn't know anything about it. And I was totally shocked when she put the shoes on and went into the past. And I was like, this is great. I want to watch all of it. It was so good.
Yeah.
So good.
What about you, Mark?
I enjoyed it as well. I don't know if I enjoyed it as much as y'all did, but I did. I love Jean Smart. She was by far the best thing. Yeah. Candace Cameron was good. But Jean Smart's so good. And she was almost like too good to where like when she wasn't on the screen, I was kind of like, I wonder when Jean Smart's getting back.
That's fair.
Yeah.
They kind of drug a little bit for me.
I can see that. So basically the story of this movie is you have Noelle that gets locked in her department store. And this is a job that she's basically settled for. And she's just not someone who's taken risks in her life. And as she waits, she meets her guardian angel. And every time she tries on a different pair of shoes, she goes back to a moment of her life where she didn't take a leap of faith and missed out on a opportunity that she could have had. And so that was sort of the main message of the movie is that, take those risks, take those leaps of faith, and you might get a Luke McFarlane at the end of it. I don't know.
At the end. I would knock on every door if Luke McFarlane was on the other side of it. Agreed. I would knock on every door of my past. I'd go back and relive all of it.
So because he's fireman Jake, and he lives next door to her, and they get assigned to plan this Christmas gala. And he wants to make it sort of more fun. But she and her bosses are like the worst. And they don't even want to have a snow machine. That's like out of control for them. They're like, whoa, stop.
That's not refined or tasteful at all.
Yeah. And so so she's trying to plan this party with Jake, and each kind of memory that she steps into, I kind of like that she's not watching herself make these choices. She's actually put in that spot again and has to make the choices again, which I really liked. I don't think I've ever seen this kind of story quite like that. It was really good. And and they talk about how sort of each choice kind of, she could have had an opportunity to get her closer to Jake, to get her closer to other good things in her life. She's put aside her photography. She's put aside her, all the other things because she doesn't want to take the risk. And I think that's a message that almost anyone can relate to, I think.
Yeah.
I did I love this movie. I loved everything about this movie. Like I said, I was dumbfounded when she stepped into the shoes and went back into the past. Yeah. I was just like, I didn't know that was going to happen. And then I really enjoyed all of it, everything that happened. It was hard for me at first to understand why she was going back and reliving these moments and seeing what she could have had when she gets transported back to the present and she doesn't have that anymore. I was like, this seems almost needlessly cruel to like show her how her life could have turned out if only she'd made a different choice at that moment. I'm like, there's no way that you can guarantee that this choice is still going to get her to that same place, and that's clearly the place that she wants to get to. But as it progresses, you see her get more and more into the idea that the choices that she's made, like, yes, they shaped her past, but they're going to shape her future. Like, so I appreciated like how it progressed that way. It was hard for me to watch it first, but I get where they were going with it.
I can understand that. And because each choice is getting her closer and closer to making the changes as far as her work, and also making the changes with her dad. She ends up making that change, which I thought was really sweet. And then finally, of course, making the changes so that she ends up with Luke. And so that was really, really fun, where she would have just kind of not really considered him, not made, because at the beginning she's like, oh, I won't go to dinner with you. I'm just going to stay home and get ready, or we can just plan tomorrow. And she's like, why didn't you go? Why didn't you go to dinner? Kind of a thing. And by the end, she's kind of learned to take those leaps and take those risks. And so that's really nice, I think. And what about the whole brother Will thing? Did you kind of, when you finally see who she's supposedly married to, and it's like Will, was it like, or
yes, I was like, what is going on? I have no idea who this guy is. Why is she taking pictures of him? I still have this question. If Will is a doctor, why was she taking pictures of him in a Santa hat? I'm still confused.
That was weird.
What I really did like about the final scene, when you finally get to understand the relationship between Will and Jake, is when he walks into the condo and says, honey, I'm home. And she goes, oh, you're honey, I'm home. And then Luke comes in after him. I was like, that is an adorable brother and sister-in-law relationship. I loved it. I thought it was super cute. I'm glad that they kept it like going throughout the whole movie. And she finally sees like what she couldn't see before. And I just really liked it.
But it was kind of upsetting because it was like, oh no, is that the, and then you realize, oh no, that's the brother, and she's saying that to the sister-in-law. You're like, no, I want her to be with Jake. But I just,
she wanted to be with Jake. Yeah. So I was confident in her, and she did not disappoint.
Yeah, there were so many.
Shoes were great. Her outfits were fantastic. She is adorable. Like, if I were her age and still single, like, that couldn't be possible. I don't care which city you live in, she would not be single at her age because she is gorgeous. And she does really well in those hats. I could not pull those hats off with the little pom-poms on the top. She looked great.
She looked so cute in those hats. You're right.
Loved it. It's not a good look for me.
I generally don't I don't look good in hats because my head is very large, and I'm really large, so it's hard to find a hat that will work for me. But anyway, so
I have one hat. There is one hat that I can wear, and I wear it a lot. So I don't know what I'm going to do when it doesn't like fit anymore. But it's just the one, and that's it.
I don't know. And I just loved Jean Smart in this so much. It was so funny. Like when she has hilarious. When she has them pull the
sleigh.
The sleigh scene was hilarious, but also in the basement. Yes. Like, you got that twinkle in her eyes.
Yeah.
She's like, what lever? I don't know.
I really enjoyed when she forced them to bake cookies together. Like, that was adorable. And it was a nice, like, switch on the cookie baking scene that we're used to, because instead of throwing ingredients at each other, they were just, like, decorating gingerbread cookies.
Non-series original, kind of things. This is my favorite of the year. This was so great. I loved it. And I think it might be Candace Cameron's best movie. The only one that's even close is one called Christmas Detour, which is kind of a classic that she's in. That's really good. But this is just great. So I gave, 2.
Nice.
Yeah. My favorite Christmas, this, and then Road to Christmas is my second favorite. So of this season.
Okay.
I loved that one.
That was a good one.
Mm-hmm. So how many crowns do you give it, Jess?
I give it 4 out of 5 crowns. It does not match Everlasting Christmas to me, Christmas Everlasting, just because that one was so like crazy over the top well done. Like this was very well done for what it was. Which wasn't as emotional as that one to me, but this one was super cute. I loved everything about it. I loved all the shoes. I love the memories. I love the choices that she made. And there was one point they had a snowball fight in this movie, but it was Luke having a snowball fight with neighborhood children.
Yeah.
And she just like walked into it. And I was like, this is adorable. Like, this is the best idea. Why have they not done this before? How could you not love him for interacting with the youths? Like, such a good idea. So definitely give it 4 out of 5. So glad I watched it. And it made me appreciate Candace Cameron as a Hallmark queen, which I had not before. Yeah. And I'm glad that this is the movie that I dipped my toes in.
Yeah. Check out Christmas Detour next. It's got a lot of tropes, but it executes them really well. But what about you?
Well, I love the trope.
Yeah. What about you, Mark? What do you give it?
Well, I don't know if I'm going higher than I thought I would, or Jess went lower than I figured she would, but I'm also going 4. I thought it was really good. A little slow at times, but I really enjoyed it. It was really good. I'm surprised how much I've liked the Candace Cameron movies. This is like the 3rd one I've seen this year. And I haven't seen any before this year, so I was pleasantly surprised by everything I've seen so far.
Yeah.
I don't remember which ones I've seen.
I wasn't that crazy about her movie last year, just because I thought The Switch for Christmas, because I thought it was sort of boring. You're just watching these people plan parties because everyone knew that they were switched, and so it was just kind of, I didn't really like it. But she does a pretty good job picking projects, and her Aurora Teagarden series is a lot of fun. If you like detective shows, they're pretty fun. They're written by the same person who did the original books are written by the same person who wrote True Blood.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Right. But obviously this is Hallmark sized, but they're really fun. Right. So check out Aurora Teagarden. They're really good. Right. But anyway, so she's great. And so that's it. We did the 4. So let's each give sort of a rankings of these. I have Shoe Addicts Christmas at number 1. And then I have Christmas Everlasting at number 2. And then I have Christmas Honeysuckle Lane at number 3. And Pride, Prejudice, and Mistletoe at number 4. So what about you, Jess?
I have Christmas Everlasting at number 1, possibly of all time. It was so good. I have Shoe Addicts Christmas at number 2. They're so different to me, like in different categories, that they could both be their own number 1. Like they were so good. And then I have Pride, Prejudice, and Mistletoe. And then in a distant 4th, I have Christmas at Honeysuckle Lane. Distant. Like could be also on a different list. So.
Okay. Good. What about you, Mark?
Well, there's a reason we have a podcast together, because we have the exact same rankings. Everlasting.
Really?
Yep. Shoe Addict, Pride and Prejudice, and Honeysuckle.
Very good. Okay.
Our rankings.
We're actually pretty close in general. So got some rankings from our listeners. We have Laura Ann Marie. She has Shoe Addicts Christmas at 1, Christmas Everlasting at 2, Pride, Prejudice, Mistletoe 3, Christmas on Honeysuckle Lane at 4. Nadia Alvarado Barrios.
Distant 4.
She's very cute. She has 1 I, 2 love, 3 them, 4 all.
I like following her on Twitter. She is cute.
She is so cute. I can't pick. It's Lacey, Candace, Alicia, and then Tatiana Lee, Merritt Patterson, Brittany Bristow. That's from the Palace movie. But yeah, so she loves her Queens of Hallmark, as we all do. So Casey says, I haven't watched Honeysuckle yet, but I really enjoyed the other three for all different reasons. If I had to rank, Christmas Everlasting, Shoe Addicts, and Pride and Prejudice. Michelle Benson says, she says Shoe Addicts is 5 crowns, perfect balance of romance and humor. Christmas Everlasting, 2.5. I think I built this up too much because the Hall of Fame, it's a Hall of Fame one. I found the trio of friends really off-putting, very rude and pushy. So she's kind of in my camp there. And then Christmas Honeysuckle Lane.
They don't appeal to everyone. So.
Maybe if I had been thinking about
I'd approach them that way.
And then she has
I swear that's exactly how they came off to me.
She has Honeysuckle Lane at 3, and I would hope that the Covens of Witches are nicer than that. Like, I have faith in the Wiccan sisters that they're not so mean. Like, come on.
Well, I tell you what, though, like, they grow and they change as people. Like, that is what their witchhood does to them. So.
Okay, good.
Just putting words in everyone's mouth. Please at me on Twitter.
Well, you'll agree with Rosa G. Vela. She says Christmas Everlasting, Shoe Addicts Christmas, Pride and Prejudice, and Christmas on Honeysuckle Lane. So bad, I stopped watching it. It returned.
Perfect.
I just couldn't enjoy it. Love Alicia, but everything was off from her hair, blue nail polish, and attitude.
Oh, I did like her hair. But the rest agreed.
Yeah. So there, let's see, Mrs. Reed 101 just says, all 3 crowns except Shoe Addicts Christmas. That one is 4. For Luke McFarlane. So she's kind of mad on all of them. Wrong. So there you go. That's our listeners. So please let us know what you thought of all of these movies. This has been so much fun. I have had a delight talking with you guys. And
it always is.
We'll definitely have to do it again. And so why don't you tell people how they can, if you have social media, or just how they can find your podcast?
We're at Hallmark and Jess on Twitter and at Hallmark and Jess on Instagram also. And you can email us, hallmarkandjess@gmail.com. Facebook, we got that. Hallmark and Jess is out there somewhere.
We got them all.
And we got everything. And we release episodes on Wednesdays. We're competing right up against you. Taking on the Titans. That's
okay. There's room for all who want to podcast about Hallmark. So
Rachel and Amber have been super gracious and have been promoting us for a long time now, and we really appreciate it. The fact that they think that there is space for everyone. It's been really great for us, and we love it. So,
feelings mutual. So make sure you're following Hallmark and Jess, and make sure you're following us at Hallmarkies Podcast all over social media. Follow me at Rachel's Reviews on iTunes and on YouTube. So make sure to do that. Next weekend, we are going to be treated with Christmas Wonderland, Mingle All the Way. That's our Jen Lilly movie, and that one has huge potential. We're really excited. The cast is so good. So very excited about that one. And then Sunday, we have Majestic Christmas and Once Upon a Christmas Miracle. So that one's going to be interesting because it has the daughter in Friday Night Lights, but she's like a grown woman.
Oh, Julie?
Yeah. And so it's going to be like hard for me to like see her as this grown person, which is totally unfair, but it is true. But anyway.
Well, yeah, she was a real brat on that show. So.
So anyway, so that's coming up. We're excited. And so make sure you're following the podcast all over. And thanks so much for coming on the show. And we'll have to get together.
Thanks for having us.
We'll have to get together soon. We're going to talk Fast and the Furious one of these days.
One day.
One of these days.
Can't
we
wait.
have so much to say. You don't even know.
All right, great. Well, thanks so much. And we will talk again soon. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.